Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm so sad because I just filmed this video and I ran out of storage halfway through, so now I'm having to refilm it, but that's okay. Today we're going to be talking about dating and foster care. If you're new here, I've been a single foster parent. I went into the process single, I went through the licensing process single, and then my whole first year of fostering, I was a completely single parent. It wasn't until Christmas this past year when I actually moved in with a significant other. So I do have a little bit of experience having dated during that time when I was a single foster parent. I will say I had no intention of dating when I became a foster parent. I pretty much figured like I was choosing fostering over ever finding, a love or a partner or anybody. I just didn't think that there'd be anybody interested in dating foster parent or even a single parent. And I just kind of thought that I was giving up that part of my life to do fostering, and I was okay with that. And I know there's a lot of you who may be feeling the same way, that you have to choose between, one or the other, but I'm kind of a living testimonial that you don't. You actually can do both, but there are some things that you definitely need to consider when you're going through this process. So I wanted to make a video to just kind of talk about that and a little bit about my experience, but more just the experience in general. I don't want to get too detailed in my experience alone, just to protect the privacy of those who are in my life. But I definitely want to give you guys some good advice if you're going into this, or maybe you're already dating someone and you're wondering what things you need to consider. All right, so first I want to talk a little bit about if you are already dating someone. Just briefly, if you are going into fostering right now and you're already dating someone, or maybe you're a foster parent and you're dating someone and you're kind of wondering like what to tell them or how to go about that, my advice is absolutely be 100% open and honest from the front end. Once you've decided to foster, yes, there may be some backlash, there may be some questions, but it's better to know now whether or not that person is on board with you than later down the road when you're actually getting a placement and you really need that support system. So definitely be open and honest from the get-go with everybody involved. So that means telling your significant other what you're planning to do, what's involved, how they will be involved, how it will affect your relationship and the time you spend together. And then also telling your social workers and licensing workers and anyone else involved in your foster care experience what's going on if you're dating a significant other, and they can kind of let you in on some of the things that you may need to do to make sure you're complying with your state's standards. So that's my advice if you're already dating someone in foster care. Most likely, most of you watching this video are more single or interested in the possibility of dating someone, or wondering if it's even possible and what kinds of things you need to consider. So this video is mostly for you. So if you are going into licensing process single and knowing you want to be a single foster parent, or maybe you're already a single foster parent and you're wondering how the dating world goes, these are some of the things I would consider. First, totally fine to date, guys. There's some stigma out there about single parents dating, and it's totally fine as long as you go about it the right way. And I'm not saying that my way is the only right way, but I do think all these things should be considered in any relationship, especially when there's kids involved. The first thing is there's no laws or rules against using a dating app or going out to meet somebody or having a night off when you're a foster parent. So as long as your child's being taken care of, and you're following all your state guidelines with childcare and whatnot, then it's totally fine for you to go and be on a dating app or go and meet people occasionally. That's totally fine. There's really nothing to consider with that. You can do that just as much as you would if you weren't fostering, so long as you, like I said, you have proper care for your child that's okay with your state and social worker. But if you're getting into more serious relationships, that's when things get a little bit more tricky. Now, if you're just meeting someone, similar to what I said before, I do recommend just being upfront and honest, being like, hey, I'm a foster parent, I'm a single foster parent, I chose to do this, and these are the reasons why, and just don't give specifics about your child or anything like that. Obviously, you want to protect their privacy and their safety, but being upfront and letting them know hey, this is going on in my life, and that can kind of tell you whether or not that person's even someone worth pursuing. But once you have found someone that you think is worth pursuing and you want to continue the relationship and you think it might become something more serious going on, or you want to start dating more frequently, that's when you should start considering all these other things. The first thing I want to mention is frequent visitor form. Now this will vary a little bit probably by location, but I'm pretty sure that most locations will have something similar to this. So where I am in North Texas, if I have someone who's at my house more than 2 times a month, I think it's 2 times, then they have to be on the frequent visitor form. And that form basically is background checked, it's in the system, people know who's in and out of the house, and it's just for the safety of the child. So if you're dating someone more seriously and they're over at your house 2 or more times a month, then you need to make sure that you've updated your social worker, letting them know like, hey, I've started dating someone, and then that they can get them on that frequent visitor form. Now, I know it can be really nerve-wracking telling your social worker, like, oh my gosh, I'm dating someone, like, what are they gonna think? And I remember feeling this exact same way. Like, I was so nervous to tell my social worker that, like, I was getting in a more serious relationship. I was so afraid that, like, they'd be worried about it, or, like, worried about my placement, or, like, me, and, like, but it was not that way at all. In fact, it was the opposite. Like, they didn't even blink an eye. And I know this will vary a little bit based on social workers and their experience, but I promise you guys, your social workers, they have seen it all, guys. They see the worst of the worst when it comes to families and children, and, you know, a loving single parent who's, you know, getting in a serious relationship is not, you know, something horrible. So as nerve-wracking as it is, just know that they've seen it all, and as long as you're being open and upfront about it and being safe about it, you know, it's going to be fine. So that's kind of my advice there, to be open with your social workers and to make sure you're getting them on that frequent visitor form when they start visiting your house or even just being around your child. It's just a good idea to have them background checked. Now, I know people have different views about whether or not you should bring a person around your kid, and I think that depends on so many factors, and you should definitely, you know, talk to your social workers, follow your gut, you know, be safe and smart about it. Obviously, do not leave anyone alone with your children, especially early on in relationships like that. Definitely not a good idea. But getting the background checked, you know, being safe when the child's around, and being mindful of the child's age. You know, if you're fostering older children, I feel like that's a whole other dynamic. I really only have experience with the younger ones, you know, since my son's only 21 months old right now. So definitely make sure you're talking with older children too, if you're planning on bringing someone new into their lives. And think about the impact that can have on them as well if things go south, or if things get more serious. You know, it's definitely something you want to think about before you introduce someone into a child's life. That being said, if you get even more serious and maybe you're thinking about moving in together, which once again, people have different views on this. Some people think you need to be married. Some people think you need to be dating for 2 years. You know, we're not going to get into that right now. I respect everyone's personal beliefs and everything. As long as, like I said, as long as you're considering the safety of the child and following your state regulations, it should be fine. I know in my state, if you're in a serious relationship and you're moving in together, it's a requirement for that person to be licensed as a foster parent. So in my situation, you know, I moved in with my significant other in this past December, and he had to go through all the foster parent training, all the fingerprinting, background checking, all that. He had to get fully licensed as a foster parent for us to live together. And that's really also shows you like, hey, this person's really serious about me and my family too. So it's kind of almost a nice regulation if you think about it. But that is a requirement for where I live, so definitely check your requirements if you're thinking about moving in with someone like that. That could definitely be a situation you encounter. On that note of moving in together, I definitely want to tell you, like, you should have so many conversations with that person before you move in. Basically, go through, like, your own premarital counseling. Like, you should talk about finances, you should talk about parenting styles, you know, what things are going to look like, who's going to handle what. Because in reality, regardless of what you plan, if that person's living with you, they're co-parenting. You know, they're going to be there when your child's throwing a tantrum or, you know, being sassy or whatever, depending on their age. So you need to make sure that you guys are on the same page, have the same expectations. You know, talk about, you know, when do you think we want to get married? When do you think we want to have more kids? You know, do you want to keep fostering, you know, after this placement? You know, are you interested in adopting this placement? You know, you have to have those conversations, and it can be a bit awkward. And, you know, if it doesn't feel like the right time, then maybe it's not the right time to move in together. But you definitely need to have those conversations before you move in, because the worst thing would be moving in and uprooting a child and then having that not work out. So you need to be pretty sure, and like I said, keep everyone informed, follow your regulations, and make sure you're asking each other those questions and having those conversations. Because ultimately, like I said, that child should be the priority, and it should be for the benefit of the child and your family and yourself for that to happen. So that's a little bit about moving in, just in case you weren't aware that, you know, a lot of times they do have to be licensed and, you know, regulated and fingerprinted and all of that in order to move in together. And a lot of that's even required, like I said, even just being a frequent visitor or someone who's around or who you're dating. So just know that, you know, when things get serious, you are going to have that conversation with this person. It's like, hey, I'm a foster parent. You know, you're going to have to get background checked if you want to keep seeing us. And that's kind of a good thing, guys. Like, I know that maybe it sounds a little bit awkward, but it kind of weeds out, like I said, the people that aren't interested in that. So just keep that in mind. These are just a few things I thought you should consider when dating and going through foster care, that you are going to have to be a little bit more open about your relationship and the things that are going on with both the person you're dating and anyone involved. in your foster care experience, being your social worker, your licensing worker, anybody like that, and even your child if they're old enough. So definitely keep that in mind. Oh my gosh. Hold on, I'm gonna speak. Let me know in the comments below if you have any more questions about dating in foster care, if there's something I didn't answer that you really wanted to know. And I'll talk to you guys next time. Make sure you subscribed and liked this video. Hit the little notification bell if you want to make sure that you're seeing all my videos. I am making a lot more right now, so you don't want to miss any. Definitely hit that bell. All right, I'll talk to you guys next time. Bye.